Yeah.
That is true. That's just like one of the hardest things about, when I got sober and when you're sober in your 20s, when everybody else is making mistakes under the guise of drinking, you're like, no, that's just who I am.
Yeah. All me. You're welcome.
David made me think of something. My sponsor back in Boston, my first sponsor, he had a sober nightclub in Boston, and we had we started a comedy night. And we had like Teddy Bergeron came in. I don't know if you even know who that is, but he was on like Johnny Carson. I mean, he was. I mean, Lenny Clark came through. I mean, they all the next thing. Jay Moore came through. The other guy who's the big HBO guy now, he had his own show there. Dane Cook came through. I mean, really, like it was unbelievable. Like how the crowd that used to come in there, and it was all sober people, all people in recovery. It was crazy. And then certain nights it was a nightclub or whatever, but the comedy night was a big night there.
It seems that actors or comedians, there's two kinds: those that drink and those that are in rehab. You know what I mean?
and don't forget the musicians are in there.
With some musicians sprinkled in.
Yeah, they're like in a whole separate ward of the rehab.
Well, that's one thing that Charlie Sheen said that I thought was kind of fair, where he said, if I was a musician, nobody would be giving a damn right now about what's going on.
Oh, it's encouraged,
But the problem is you're on a family show.
Right.
You're on a show with a teenager on it.
But how sad is that also, though, that, we think musicians, that's part of the deal.
Well, there are bands that have a sober bus and
sober
a
companion
bus, a party bus.
For the separate group members.
No, for the different group members, because we were just discussing this, Alan and I, on the way, the doc here on the way here, we were just talking about that, how they have a lot of bands have two separate buses, which is,
drinking for everybody. I mean, it's like, I grew up in Montana, and it's an inherent part of our culture, like the redneck part of our culture. I mean, I recall very vividly the first time I had a Budweiser, but the first time I had a cold beer with my dad and my brother. Right. They gave me a sip when we're hunting. It was just this epiphany, like this huge tantamount moment in my life. We're like, I'm a man. I can shoot a deer, drink some beer. You know what I mean? And you don't have, like we're taught, you have fun, you drink. That's it. And I mean, just being.
And why did you leave Montana?
They threw me out.
And now it's like you just shoot a deer. You don't have a beer.
They threw me out because I was actually sober, and I shot a deer and started crying. They're like, "You got to go to California. You
got to go with them.
Get out of here, tater tot. Yeah, sit in traffic." But,
did you stop drinking here in Montana?
Oh, here I've been here a while, but one of the things that actually really resonated with me, I was home for Christmas, and I have alcoholics in my family, as everyone does. But my mom said to me, she said, "David, just because you handle it better per se than most people doesn't make it okay." She goes, "If you abuse alcohol, you abuse alcohol." And she said, "David, I've seen you abuse alcohol, and you do it a lot, and it really bothers me." And she said it as a friend, not as a mother.
With judgment.
Yeah, and she said it as a friend, as my equal, really, and it really resonated with me in a paramount way. And I thought about that night. I was like, we all choose our own bottom, right? And that was one of the things that really just made me sit and think about what I was doing and where I was going and how you process things, because it is an accountability thing. And if you have a bad set or you blow an audition, I could make the choice of going and getting wasted, but that doesn't really, you don't learn anything from that, and it's to embrace and one thing I guess I learned too, it's good to fail. You learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. When I bomb on stage, I learned way more and just proliferate far more than I would if I go and crushed. Because when you bomb, you've got to sit back and really take it in and go, okay, what went wrong and how do I process, how do I get better, and how do I do this differently?
Actually, I think watching you bomb is the funniest sets ever. When I go there and nobody else is laughing, I find you funnier than
that's good. Well, you should come along more often then.
Yeah, because it's normally when you're just completely out of control. By the way, if nobody's ever seen David, you got to go check him out. He's just really one of the funniest guys I've ever seen, and his energy level is just unreal, especially for somebody that's sober, because you wouldn't think so when you're watching.
Yeah, people think I'm on drugs a lot.
Like James Franco.
James Franco. Yeah.
That was the point I was going to hit on earlier, which is, there have been times when people, when we were talking about like cultural stuff, and people have referred to me as the drunkest guy at the wedding.
Right.
But I wasn't. I didn't have a drop of alcohol. I didn't have anything to drink.
I always say the loudest table right at the restaurant is the sober table.
Yeah,
right?
because I was having such a great time. People associated great time with being hammered or being loaded, however you want to put it. And it's just funny how it doesn't. It took me a while to figure that out, but I realized young that that isn't something that I needed.
Well, it's every beer commercial in America, does teach you that.
Yeah.
Well, after the first 1 to 2 drinks, the positive benefits of alcohol actually kind of dissipate in terms of how they affect your brain. So everything after that is kind of downhill. So, and I find, being sober, and then I sit at a table with people that are drinking, like the first couple drinks, I'm kind of like, ooh, that looks good. And then after I watch them take a couple drinks, then I'm like, thank God I didn't take a drink.
That,
right?
yeah.
And then you actually have this incredible amount of control and power actually within the group, because everybody else is kind of impaired and they're saying things they shouldn't, and
you're not. You're like this. You're like note to self.
What I used to do, though, is I'd surround myself with people that were way worse than I was. I wasn't doing drugs, but he's snorting bull like Noriega and popping ecstasy and licking people's faces, and I'm like, I don't have a problem. Look at him. I'm fine. Let's do a shot. You know what I mean?
So like drinking. It's like drinking on Skid Row.
Yeah, I was like, I'm fine. Look at that guy. He's homeless.
Right, you just pick up a homeless guy.
Yeah, exactly. Drive around with peas on me. I'm doing all right. Looking good. Yeah,
that's
fascinating.
Great. Wow.
But everything's good. Relationships are better. You make better decisions. You have more clarity. Like, I'm dating a Vietnamese girl now. And when I say something stupid, and she's like, "Oh, kill Whitey," you know what I mean? I don't take her seriously. I take her literally. I'm like, I better get out of the room. She's gonna kill me. You know what I mean? But no, you don't take things very personally and overreact and say stupid stuff. It's just much better. My relationships are richer. My work is better. I'm writing better. My presence on stage is better. It's, I just feel that it's a better. And also, I saved like $500,000 last month. It's not a bad month, guys,
So we're going to take a break in a second, but when I come back, I want to talk about how you actually didn't get sober in AA, but got sober in a different way, and talk about how that can be different for each person. So anyways, KLEAN Radio, call us, 877-830-830. Welcome back to KLEAN Radio.
So I have to ask you a question quickly. Are you actually a Joy Division fan, or are you just like, it's one of those cool bands like, like the Pixies to like have a T-shirt of?
Wow.
That nobody actually knows their music, but...
I'm actually a huge Joy Division fan, which is kind of sad because it's probably one of the most depressing bands on earth. So...
I don't know any Joy Division songs other than Shadow Play,
my wife has like every classic rock T-shirt ever, and she pays like ridiculous amounts of money for them, right? Like the original 1970s Fleetwood Mac shirt or whatever. But she's got all these like rock shirts that are have bands on them. She doesn't know a single song from the band. Like she has this Frank Zappa T-shirt that she wears all the time, and I'm like, Amy, name one Frank Zappa song. She's like, shh, don't tell anybody. I don't know.
The only thing I know of Frank Zappa is that he has a son named Weasel.
Well, there you go.
And right, isn't there like a Moon Unit?
Moon Unit's
that's the only reason I know certain people.
Montana. I'm going to be a dental floss tycoon, right? Move to Montana soon. That's a Frank Zappa song, isn't it?
You see, you're asking.
I have no idea.
I got the Joy Division shirt on. I can ask me a question about Joy Division.
They have a song called Shadow Play. I know that because the Killers covered a song of theirs called Shadow Play.
Well, there's a lot of bands that owe a lot to Joy Division.
I have a question about Joy Division. Who is Joy Division? How about that?
Well, they became New Order after their lead singer killed himself.
And who is New Order?
I actually liked Joy Division. So
there we go. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the support.
Were great. I remember dancing to them in a club in Daytona a long time ago.
Do you actually go dancing?
Oh, yeah.
Are you a fan?
I love going out. Yeah.
See, you're one of those guys. I'm always curious to meet the guy that likes to go dancing.
Are you kidding me? I've gone. I love. I go out. I have a lot of friends in Miami, so we'll go to Miami, go to dinner at like 10, 11 o'clock, get dinner, and then hit the club at 1, and then you're out all night, and then.
So here's my question
to
you.
The beach.
You could be honest. You don't have to be honest. Do you go dancing to meet women, or do you go dancing because you actually enjoy the dancing?
Nah, I just go. If friends are going, I go. And then if I meet somebody, I meet somebody. If I don't, I don't. That's why I like a lot of these big clubs. Actually, that was the first time, now that we're talking about Joy Division, the first time I danced on a dance floor, I was like 21 years old and I was by myself.
Huh.
But it was that kind of music where...
Right. Well, they have songs like Isolation.
Yeah, so. Well, but it was just everybody was out on the dance floor just dancing. This was just before rave started, and you didn't need a girl to dance. You just danced, And,
I actually spent some time in Tokyo. I worked with a record company out in Tokyo in one of my other careers. And in Tokyo, everybody actually lines up and faces the DJ, and they dance side by side, which is... I can't figure that one.
I sort of like that. I feel a lot more comfortable with that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
line dancing.
Yeah,
started in
line
Tokyo?
dancing.
line
that you don't
dancing,
have to like.
but it's like really intense line dancing, and it's
Oh, yeah.
all
With glow
it's free
sticks.
form
With
in
glow
line.
sticks, yeah.
It's a techno Garth Brooks. That sounds nice.
I actually
When I was getting sober, I actually ran out of a club in New York. I had about like 90 minutes sober, and my friend brings me to this club, and I was like looking around, and I was in New York, and it was one of these hot places, and I was like, I can't. Nobody could see me making the face I'm making, but I literally ran because I was scared to death. I was like, I can't be here.
Yeah,
Isn't that a good thing? Like getting sober and you go back in those environments, you're like, you know what? I didn't miss people sweating on me and peeing on my shoes. I didn't miss that.
Well, yeah, no.
You know,
or
slobbering,
peeing on
you know.
your own shoes
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your own
you know.
closet.
But what's important what Brian is sharing is that, you know, it's finding these things that you enjoy doing and being able to do them sober is almost, it's a bigger high.
Right.
It's like when you go dancing and if you go clubbing, and I'm not a clubber, I'm a lounger, but when you can do these things and you can do them sober.
Or a vegetarian.
Or, I mean, right. You know, there is no
It's not
greater.
hysterical. That's not
Right, right. It's
But
the
it's
Montana man down here.
It's like going to a
He's gonna
ball
have a
game.
second.
It's like going, but it's like going to a ball game sober. There's no greater feeling. I used to steal beer from my friends. I'd like take it from under their chairs and pour it into my cup because I hated to be finished first. You know that, and I didn't have money. And but there was no greater feeling than getting sober and doing these things and realizing, oh my God, you know, it's like those people that would see Natural Born Killers and go, you had to be on acid to get it. And I was like, no, it's just a horrible movie, you know. But I didn't have to be on acid to see Natural Born Killers.
Right.
You know, everything that's good you could do sober.
Right.
You know, it's like I used to hear comedians say, you know, a lot of comedians go, oh, the joke's too smart for them. And then somebody one time said, no, it's just not that funny.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, and also I think that things are more profound. They're far more powerful when you're sober because they mean more, and you're there. You're just more present. I mean, you're going to carry it with you more. You're more present in the moment. The moment stays with you much longer, and it means more. So,
and you feel things.
So when you want to make it, when you make out with the girls, because you want to make out with her, it's not because you're making a bad decision.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean,
right.
that's a kind of a trivial.
No,
example,
that's actually very good.
But you know, it's really. I mean, it's you make better decisions. There's more clarity, and just for myself, like being on stage when you have those great sets, and now as opposed to going up with nerves of like, oh, I'm a failure. You don't have any talent. You shouldn't be doing this. You should have gone to college. Listen to your parents. Now you're nervous. You're like, let's get it on. You know, it's a much better nerves. You're like, you know, it's like, come on, right. You know, it feels good, man. So
I went back. I started playing ice hockey again. What was it, 8 years ago? I ran into a friend who was playing pro in Manhattan Beach, and he had a bunch of old New York Rangers stuff in his garage, and then we went out and got skates, and I started playing again. I had lost a hockey scholarship drinking, and drank it away, and then I went back to school, and then to get back to go back into the clubbing thing, I was doing an internship when I was in university in Argentina. And there was this one club, Buenos Aires News in Buenos Aires, it was an outside nightclub. And I remember walking in this club, and culturally there, if you don't drink, it's a little different because it's like, what do you mean you don't drink? Because there's not a lot of like, you know, whatever. But there was like 3,000 kids in this club all singing the same song. It was bizarre to me, but it was outside. There were like 3,000 kids, and it was absolutely one of the best nights of my life. And I remember every minute of it. You know, I wasn't, you know, blacked out or, like you said, peeing on someone's shoe or, you know.
Peeing on my own shoe.
So David, you know, when we left for the break, we were talking about how actually you got sober on your own. Yeah? Is that how it happened?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's you know, there were certain people or influences in my life, and you know, I just wasn't happy. I wasn't, you know, and it just had lost its zest. Like the feeling of being buzzed anymore was like this redundant. It was almost like going to a job I didn't like anymore, you know. And I raised as a Christian, and I'm not the most steadfast Christian, but I pray every day. I just want to do more with my life. I want to have more meaning, and I want to be a better example and have a more meaningful walk. And I know that, you know, wasting one's time, you know, one of the influence, and it's just I'm kind of finished with that. I am finished with that. I want to do more with my life and more with my time here.
Yeah, I think some people mature out. You know, I think that's a concept. I don't know. What do you think about that, Alan? Like,
well, you know, I like what you're saying, but you see, I mean, we know people get well at it, you know, other than going to Alcoholics Anonymous. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that when you see what happens, the experience people have, it's very similar, isn't it?
Correct.
First thing is you realize you had a problem. I mean,
I went through a breakup, and it actually
very
helped
painful
me.
situation, right?
It was we were living together, and it was the first one I'd ever lived with. And as an actor or comic, what's your backup plan? You know what I mean? That's enough. And then finally I lived with the girl, but I remember we broke up.
Turned to one instead of she.
I didn't drink.
It was like the first one.
I went to a gig, and they paid us in form. It was in San Diego, and they paid us in form of a bar tab. They're like, drink whatever you want. And I remember I sat there looking at the bar, and I could taste the Corona or the beer. I could taste the tequila. I know what kind of reposado and I went through that whole process, and I knew that like by drinking 3 or 4, it was going to be a downhill zone for me. And then I'd probably make a phone call. Long story short, I drove back to LA, and the next morning I didn't sleep. I had insomnia through this, and I looked at the ceiling, and I yelled at the ceiling. I go, I can't even sleep, God! I screamed.
Yeah.
And a voice, as clear as a bell, hit me in the gut, and it said, David, you've been asleep for the last 10 years.
Yeah, right.
I took my breath out, and I sat on the bed.
That's powerful.
And so a month after I quit drinking, I remember I was like, hey, Lord, hello, where's the Miracle Bird dog? You know what I mean? Years later, still waiting, buddy, but it feels good.
See, we call that a moment of clarity.